Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're going to be objectively breaking down the meteoric rise, the absolute marketing genius, and, well, the increasingly complex controversies surrounding Steven Bartlett's media empire. It is an absolutely fascinating case study in modern digital business, where attention is literally the ultimate currency.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with his origins, the dropout turned dragon, then examine his incredible content engine, look at the multi-revenue stock he's built, observe how he maximizes for attention, and finally, unpack the audience capture dilemma. We're getting a masterclass in audience building, but also a stark warning about the risks of the modern attention economy.
All right, let's kick things off with part one, the dropout turned dragon, tracing his path from shoplifting pizzas to boardrooms.
To really wrap our heads around this journey, we first need to establish the sheer, undeniable scale of the media monolith Bartlett has built. 1 billion total streams. Let that sink in for a second. Hitting that milestone in late 2024 made his show the very first UK podcast to hit the 1 billion mark across all platforms. That is a level of reach traditional television networks would absolutely kill for. And we're not just talking about a lucky bedroom setup here. This operation competes at the absolute highest tier of global media. I mean, we're looking at over 10 million monthly downloads, which easily made it a top 5 global podcast on Spotify in 2024. As for revenue, early on, it was publicly stated at $1.2 million, but now it's projected to be near $20 million. He even reportedly turned down a massive $100 million partnership offer just so he could maintain his independence.
All of this success really stems from a founder who aggressively optimized his entire life to reach the top. At 18, he was broke, doing battle rap, and literally shoplifting pizzas just to survive. Fast forward to 20, he catches the wave of Twitter meme pages and founds the agency Social Chain from the back room of a university. At 27, that company merges and goes public on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. And then, by 28, he leverages all that success to become the youngest ever investor on BBC's Dragon's Den. Talk about a crazy trajectory, right? It's an origin story built on intensely structured calendars and some highly calculated pivots.
Moving right along to part two, the podcast content engine and how he fractionalizes attention.
Because, to hit 1 billion streams, you need a massive distribution machine. By treating every single episode like a massive movie premiere, his step-by-step engine actually transforms one single recording session into 60 distinct pieces of viral content. They record one high-production interview, and then the slicing and dicing begins. They make a multi-platform trailer, 10 vertical shorts, mid-length clips specifically tailored for LinkedIn and Facebook, highlight clips for a secondary YouTube channel, and multiple visual carousels. It's basically an industrial-scale operation specifically engineered to blanket every single social media feed in existence.
Which naturally brings us to part three, the multi-revenue empire stack, or his transatlantic model. Now, attention is only valuable if you can actually capture and convert it, right? While most creators usually rely on just one revenue stream, like, say, ads on their videos, Bartlett operates an incredibly interconnected 5-layer ecosystem. The media brand drives massive audience trust and direct ad revenue. Then the Flight Story Advisory Agency generates B2B deal flow. His Flight Fund injects capital into brands like Huel and Zoe, which, surprise, surprise, are then promoted right back on the show. Plus, a publishing arm extends his reach into traditional bookstores, and his television role anchors his mainstream credibility. Every guest and every sponsor literally feeds the broader portfolio. It is a wildly smart, closed-loop machine.
But we need to look at part 4, maximizing for attention and the ultimate price of that viral growth.
Here's the thing. Any machine engineered to constantly increase its output eventually slams into the reality of algorithmic incentives. So we really have to ask ourselves, what actually happens when a media business optimizes purely for maximum attention? When your only metrics for success are clicks, watch time, and retention, what kind of information naturally rises to the very top?
Well, his data-led experimentation is incredibly aggressive. His team will A/B test up to 40 different video thumbnails simultaneously, and they even use eye-tracking software to pinpoint the exact millisecond a viewer drops off. But editorially, this strict optimization has led to platforming some pretty controversial claims. We're talking guests stating they can communicate with the dead, claiming fasting causes a 1,300% increase in testosterone, and even promoting ketone bodies for managing cancer. It turns out the data naturally rewards the dramatic. And this relentless drive for maximum attention ultimately culminated in a major journalistic review. A BBC World Service investigation actually found that out of 23 health-related episodes released over a 7-month period, 15 contained potentially harmful claims. This brought some serious scrutiny to the show, and it raises some massive, really important questions about the responsibility of digital platforms that operate completely outside the regulations of traditional broadcasting standards.
And the concerns coming from the scientific community are deeply serious. One oncologist interviewed by the BBC put it bluntly, stating, "My worry is that people will listen to that advice and not their doctors, and people will die as a result of this." Medical professionals have repeatedly warned about the danger of the I-know-all expert. You know, those guests speaking with absolute unquestioning confidence on incredibly complex medical science, entirely skipping the nuance that real evidence-based medicine actually requires.
So this takes us to part 5, the audience capture dilemma. Who is really steering the ship here?
To really understand why a brilliant business mind would risk his hard-earned credibility on fringe medical theories, we have to look at a phenomenon called audience capture. Basically, this is when a creator's content is gradually steered by the reactions and algorithmic rewards of their audience rather than the creator leading the audience themselves. It perfectly describes the sort of Trojan horse pivot we've witnessed. The show transformed from a pure business and founder-focused podcast into an alternative health and longevity show. Why? Because the audience reactions and the algorithm heavily rewarded that shift.
It quickly becomes a self-reinforcing algorithmic trap. Think about it. Extreme medical claims generate highly emotional reactions and much longer watch times. That high retention triggers the algorithm to push the content to an even broader audience. That increased viewership drives up ad rates, and it boosts the value of the creator's equity investments in those exact health brands promoted on the show. Ultimately, the creator is financially and statistically incentivized to book increasingly controversial guests just to maintain that massive growth curve. The system practically demands sensationalism over nuanced, evidence-based science.
Interestingly, Steven Bartlett himself has stated, "I'm going to be attached to what the customers want, not what I want them to want." It is undeniably a flawless strategy for building a media empire and selling products. But as we weigh this incredible business acumen against the very real ethical risks, you have to ask yourself, in our modern attention economy, especially when public health is on the line, what is the ultimate cost of giving the algorithm exactly what it wants?